Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Unfiltered Stories, where we are going to talk about how to elevate your enterprise with AI you can trust. And to talk to me about this topic, I have Harsha Kumar, the CEO of NewRocket. Hi, Harsha. Welcome.
Hey, Hansa, it's great to see you.
Thank you. So, Harsha, given the fact that you're an industry veteran and you've been there around the block, and we are hearing more and more from enterprises on the fact that in the AI era, they want outcomes. They don't want to have more people thrown at a problem. They want to see actual business value being delivered. So, how does that mindset change the role of a services partner in the AI era?
Yeah, that's a great question. If you look at consulting or tech services companies, there's a whole gamut from the really low end to the really high end. On the low end, you basically have body shops that are just providing bodies, for lack of a better word. On the high end, you have companies with a lot of insights and frameworks and benchmarks and best practices and so on. Now, both sides of the spectrum are getting disrupted. If it's the low end, you just don't need as many bodies anymore because one of the first professions being disrupted is software development. On the high end, if knowledge is the cornerstone, AI democratizes it. Now, everybody has access to knowledge. So it's not something that can by itself be a moat. So, therefore, both ends of the spectrum are being disrupted. Therefore, services companies of the future need to embody the best practices, the knowledge, if you will, into real IP which can be monetized. Therefore, I see this real shift towards what HFS you guys coined as services as software, where the knowledge is actually embodied in IP which can then be reused to get a business outcome.
Yeah, and talking about IP and services as software, right? We are seeing a whole bunch of work happening around baking in AI and agentic frameworks into these, services as software platforms that are being offered. From your perspective, how will these intelligent agents and the agentic workforce change how transformation actually happens inside the enterprise?
Yeah, it's a great question. Workflows were always about parceling work among humans. And now there is AI with Gen AI and Agentic AI. Part of those tasks can actually be done by agents, but it needs to be designed from the ground up. It's not something that you can layer on top. So it needs intentional looking at the goals. What are the processes that support the goals? How can those processes be implemented using a combination of humans and agentic AI, intelligent crew, as we call it? And once one has that kind of holistic picture, how do you go from your as is to that to be state? So it's actually quite a journey. It's not something that you can just flick on. And it is not about pilots, as you correctly seen. A lot of companies are just doing pilots. Actually, we are beyond pilots. It's about having a real framework to go from where we are today to real outcomes by implementing this new approach.
That's a great perspective. But the biggest question that kind of is on top of mind for most enterprise leaders is, how do I trust this? How do I trust this AI to do what is right for my organization? And when you talk about that, and when you talk about building trust into an AI, how do you design AI systems that enterprise can actually trust to do the right thing at the right time?
Exactly the right question. The reason folks don't have trust in AI in the enterprise is for two reasons. First, is it going to actually deliver value to me? Or is it just another hype cycle? The second is, if it does deliver value, what happens to my team? What happens to their jobs? How do they interoperate with this world of agentic AI running around? Therefore, to make companies help them trust it, I think of it as having five key components, which is what we have brought to the table on top of ServiceNow, which is an AI platform for business transformation. So on top of ServiceNow, what NewRocket brings is five things. One is our own IT. As we spoke about services or software, we have taken ServiceNow's AI platform. We have layered on top certain reusable components for both cross-industry, such as IT and HR, and industry-specific use cases, such as banking back office. So that's the foundation. Then you need strategy consulting for value mapping and road mapping to ensure that your particular situation can be encoded into a value framework, and you make sure that you realize that value through a roadmap. The third is industry relevance. Every industry is different. Banking is very different from telecom. So you need to have the industry nuances filtered into the implementation. The fourth is really strong program management. To deliver something of this complexity and potential, you need to run various streams and ensure that they are all coordinated to get to the outcome. And the fifth is organizational change management. Assuming all of these four things happen, will it be adopted? Will my people embrace it? How do their skills have to change and how do they have to be enabled to adopt it? So you need all of these five things. You need the IP, you need the strategy consulting, you need the industry awareness, you need program management, and you need organizational change management. Only when you have all these five things coming together will the customer or the enterprise see value. And once they see value dependably and repeatably, that's when you gain trust.
You made a very critical point around how there's this fear about jobs being taken away, about roles changing, and about so how do you see talent models needing to adapt? What kind of skills and mindset should enterprises prepare for? So what do you see emerging in the marketplace as AI takes over?
Look, AI is here. We have all seen it on the Sunday night experience when we are consumers. We are not quite seen it on the Monday morning experience when we are at work, but that's rapidly changing. If you look at Anthropic's economic index, you can see that the adoption is increasing. One fourth of professionals are now using it for one third of their tasks. A small percentage is actually using it for three fourths of their tasks, but everybody is playing with it. So, what is critical is we as company leaders to look at the various job functions and ensure that we are training our workforce to embrace it, whatever the tool might be, whether it's Claude, whether it is Vibe, whether it is Cursor in a technology setting or something completely different based on your industry. We must embrace those. We must train our folks and we must convince them that they are going to be better with AI. It's not AI that's going to replace their job. It is going to be other workers who know how to use AI better than they can use it.
Wonderful. And so it is going to be an AI first world. That is kind of given. So we are not going to go back and take a step back and say, hey, no, we are not doing AI anymore. So we have established the fact that AI is here to stay, and the fact that you need to build a model around the AI first enterprise that is driven by trust. That's also something that is foundational. So in your perspective, what will separate the leaders from everyone else in the, let's say, in the next 2 or 3 years as AI scales and we see this trend kind of becoming a mainstay?
I think the ones who are going to succeed are those that are going to believe that the time of pilots is over. This is real. This is the real operating model. So, what does that mean? Let's say I'm running a company and I have certain goals for next year, for the next 3 years. I need to look at those goals. I need to see what initiatives I need to run, what processes I need to transform, and how AI will be a component of it. Just like we used to do workforce planning, I need to add 100 people here or 100 people there. I may have to think about I need to add 20 people and 50 agents. And here's the thing, one has to actually budget for the cost of the AI also. AI is not for free. It is definitely a value chain displacement from human labor to AI. Now, it could be either augmentation or automation. We are seeing both. But one has to look at it from a true business planning perspective. Those that look at it seriously like that and budget it and fund it and see it through to deliver AI they can trust will get success. Once they get success, they can do more of it and it becomes a virtuous cycle. So I see a clear separation in the next couple of years between companies that believe it and jump in wholeheartedly with a framework like the one I mentioned, or they just keep tiptoeing, expecting it to fail with pilots, and those companies are going to go nowhere.
So speaking of scaling and speaking of the fact that you mentioned that enterprises have to plan for it, they have to prepare for it, that also brings the big element of getting a return on investment on it, right? So how do you define ROI from their exit? Because they are also invested already in existing systems, and now this is something they're building on top of it. So how do you define ROI, and what's the value they should try to get out of their AI investments?
Excellent question. What we have done to make that really practical is we have value calculators and then we have value realization dashboards. The latter actually comes through ServiceNow's AI control tower. So let's say go into an area, let's say HR operations. We have a strategy conversation with the client about their HR service desk. It could be questions on benefits, it could be PTO, it could be insurance, etc. And we implement Agentic AI to support it. Before we implement it, we go into a value calculator and say, what are the number of cases? What are the types of cases? What is the complexity of the cases? And if AI could take part of it, 60, 70, 80, 90%, how much could the savings be? Because then you can take those humans in the HR department and have them enabled to do what only humans can do, build relationships. AI is not going to be building relationships anytime soon. Become true business partners. So once you have this value calculator, once they is implemented and it's running, you see the number of instances of it running and the value accumulating through the AI control tower. And that is a very, very clear black and white articulation of benefits based on which, you can take it to the board, you can take it to the company, etc. That's how we, suggest as a very practical approach to this ROI question.
Thank you. That really, gives a greater depth of perspective in terms of you have to be intentional about AI. You cannot just say that I'm trying to make a technology work for the sake of proving that it works. It has to be intentional, it has to be applicable, and the approach has to be pragmatic. This has been a very wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for your insights, Harsha, and we hope to see you again on one of our other unfiltered stories. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Pleasure speaking with you, Hansa. Thank you so much.